Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you. It's been a week since we last spoke. We were talking to Brandy last time about her new community, which she's getting up and running, and we'll probably have her back on at some point. And today we have another guest on that Sean was able to get a hold of and bring in. Give us just a little bit of what you know about Tamar. Is that how you say your name?
So coincidentally, we have the exact same last name. We're both Lyons, right?
That's
Spelled
right.
the same and everything. So I met her because of the conscious co-working community that we're building down here in Playa. One of my partners sent me her Instagram profile because she's like a marketing specialist in the area and stuff like that. And even though we do marketing as well, he's always doing research for other people in the same kind of genre and niche. And so I noticed, I was like, hey, we have the same last name. And then what happened was my girlfriend was hosting one of the conscious intimacy games in our house here, and she showed up, and she kind of looked familiar. I'm like,
That's funny.
I recognize this girl before, right? And she's in my house, and then all of a sudden later on, I go, one of her stories comes up, and I click on it, and I'm like, shit, that's her. So I messaged her, and I said, hey, I saw you're at their house or last night, or whatever it was. Thanks for coming. It's great support. It's great to meet you. And like, we have the same last name. And then we kind of dove in. I remember during the games, we talked about what she does for work and how she's built this agency. She's going to dive a lot more into it about like the struggles she's overcome. And also I'll let her dive into the story as well, but her going through a divorce while traveling and being in Mexico, and she's from Canada as well. So all these different things kind of aligned together and kind of got us in communication. So she's a really, really amazing woman. She's done a lot with her life. She's a co-host on her own podcast as well called Unapologetic Confidence. So she'll be talking a bit about that as well today.
Like that.
She's talking about how most of the stuff that she does with her social media that she has, it evolves around like different organic strategies and that kind of stuff. And she's going to talk about how she's been able to get on some videos and within her agency over 200 million views, which is a astronomical feature for a lot of sole business owners. So yeah, she's just a really cool woman, lots of energy, lots of spunk. We're kind of very interested in the same things. Again, we're both Lyons. So, I mean, are we related?
Yeah. I mean, if you're both from Canada, and this is like, I'm not even trying to be funny here because my mother's last name is Bouchard, and there's a lot of those in they're French Canadian, like a few generations back, right? They had this huge Bouchard family reunion with like thousands of people in Quebec or some shit. Oddly enough, if you go back far enough, if you have the same last name, there's a good chance. I mean, it could be super distant, but there's a really good chance, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only 39 million of us. So, I mean, if you go back far enough when there was like 1,000,
Yeah.
Right. The lineage is there. But yeah, so what's new on your end? I know you're traveling a bit recently. You're just back in the Detroit, Michigan area, I think, were you, correct?
I do love Detroit, but it was very cold. It was 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not as cold as where you and I grew up, but it's like it stings. It's the kind of cold where you go out and your nose hurts and your ears sting a little bit. And I'm like, this fucking sucks. And I was up there for a week, and I ended up. That's why I sound bad today. I'm going to apologize in advance for like coughing and having to mute myself a lot because I got a head cold. Back in Texas, probably through January 15th, maybe extending because it's dreary here, but it's still maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not much colder than where you're at. It's kind of like comfortable, even though it's kind of rainy. And what a great town Galveston is. We'll have to talk about it one of these days. I mean, it's just wonderful. I mean, it's just a small town feel, walkable. So it's for like nomads and things like that.
Yeah.
You can come here. You don't need a vehicle. And of course, obviously, because you're in the States, there's like Uber, DoorDash, all those things. So you can get stuff delivered, Amazon. But I love it here. And then the rent we're at a really nice Airbnb. And I think it's $1,900 US a month, which sounds like a lot, but anymore, it's not really, because I think last winter when I was in Playa, I was paying like $2,100 at the first place and $1,900 at the second place. And those weren't modern by any stretch of the imagination. So it's reasonable here. Yeah, I love this town, Galveston, Texas. But yeah, just trying to keep up with my geriatric CrossFit classes in the morning, which is why I look pink and sweaty right now. You and Corey have been, you guys been back in the gym every day? How's everything going down there with that stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I just had this like kind of like a little epiphany of getting back into better shape, and I kept making excuses. And like for me, what happened is like I'm a man of routine. I like my routine kind of the same. Like it's this time's for this is for this, this is for this. So if something came up, and all of a sudden, let's say my gym window or workout windows between 8 to 9 or 8:30 and 10 or whatever like that, if I missed that, I just wouldn't go at all for the day because I'm like, that was my window. So I kind of went into this whole like like fuck the excuses sort of thing. Like, why am I dictating, if I miss that window, like, I can understand if like my day was scheduled everything and there's just no time that makes sense. But there's some days where, I'm working, because as we work for ourselves, we can kind of dictate when we want to work. Like, I can work from 7 at night till 10 o'clock at night and have some time during the day. So I started, like, I've been going to the gym now at like, try to stay consistent around 8:30 is when I drop, the kid off at school. But I'll try and go at like, if I miss that, I'll go at noon or I'll go at 3, and I've gone to the gym at 5 in the afternoon. So I've just been not going as consistent in time, but just trying to go consistently throughout the week a lot more. So it's been very beneficial.
Yeah, somebody was just mentioning this the other day about they go to the gym every single day. I know we talked about this one in our episode about habits, about the guy that would like go, like put his shoes on and then he would go back to bed kind of thing. That's not the same story. But some people go to the gym every single day, and that way it doesn't feel like, oh, I skipped a couple days. Even if they just go in the gym and like, I walked on the stair thing for 10 minutes. Okay, well, at least you were like, I was there every single day. It is hard for me, and I don't know if you have the same experience, but I can't really work out in the late afternoon. I don't know what it is. I don't want to take pre-workout or have caffeine too late, obviously for the sleep disruption.
Yeah.
And then I just feel like after lunch, I'm just kind of getting more tired and tired and tired. So I don't know. I don't know how you do it if you're going at 5, but it's still good that you're going, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I used to work like physical jobs, I used to go to the gym at like, 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. So I'd be up at 5 for work 10, 12 hours, then I'd go to the gym after. So I like, there was but I think, I trained my body to do that. So like that was the only thing. And a lot of the jobs I had, like there were some jobs that were very physically demanding. And if I had a very big physical day, then I just didn't go to the gym. I'm like, I literally sweated all day long. I didn't need to go. But there's a lot of times on like the railroad and like running equipment, stuff like that. You're just sitting in a machine all day. You're sitting in a truck waiting for trains to go by, and just you're doing nothing. So like you're still lethargic from doing nothing, but it's more of it's good reason to go to the gym. You're like, I've literally ate food back then, smoked cigarettes, and did nothing. So I might as well go to the gym. So yeah, it's definitely tough to go because I mean, I think now with the line of work that I'm in, that we do together and stuff like that, it's very mentally draining, especially when we start early in the morning and you're messaging and emails and editing and building and coding and talking to developers and meetings and podcasts. And by the time 5 o'clock comes, you're just like,
And sometimes being brain dead, you can still get some physical activity in. But yeah, I don't know. I've always had a hard time trying to exercise in the afternoon. Most of it's because I have myself trained that I need some type of pre-workout or caffeine, which probably is not the case. It's just there's a mental block for me, like, oh, I can't exercise. I don't have any energy, which I probably do, But
yeah, I used to take pre-workout religiously just because, like, again, when I was done work, I'm so tired. I'm like, I need that boost, right? But I haven't had pre-workout in like 3 or 4 years now. Ever since I started traveling down to Mexico, I just didn't start. Well, when I was traveling, I didn't go to the gym for like a year because I was traveling in a motorhome, and I do walks and workouts on the beach and stuff like that. But like they weren't good workouts. Like I lost a lot of my good physical shape for over a year of just eating fucking tacos and drinking beer, right? So yeah, it was a harsh wake up call when I finally got to Playa. I'm like seeing all these jack dudes and beautiful women. I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, it was strange this last time when I was down there with you guys. I think I told you this. The time I'd been down there before, it was right around COVID, but it was like nowhere near the amount of like in shape people or whatever, whether they're influencers or they're just travelers, whatever it is. I pick on the influencers because it's like that's the type. But I was really surprised this last time. I think that environment is conducive for it because when I lived in Florida down near Miami, if you look around, you'll still find like overweight people that are not healthy, but not many. Whether you're out at a bar where there's a bunch of people drinking or you're just out on the beach, wherever you're at, if you look around the room, 1 out of every 10 people may be overweight, but most people are in pretty good shape. Now, some of them are probably taking HGH and things they shouldn't be, but I mean, everybody looks fit. So you kind of get shamed into, I need to exercise. Now, if you go back to like where I grew up and probably where you grew up and people just like, they let themselves go at like 35, then it's no big deal to be fat. And plus you're wearing winter clothes all the time. So nobody sees you anyway, right?
8 months of the year. And the thing is, I don't think you get shamed. They don't shame you. You shame yourself. Right. And
That's
like,
right.
it's definitely, they're not walking around like, oh, where's your six pack? They don't say that. They might be thinking it, but they don't say it. But yeah, you shame yourself. You're like, God damn it. Like the fuck, there's just six packs and beautiful women everywhere. Like it motivates you for sure to get to be.
I found that I worked harder and I tried to earn more because I had a job where I worked hourly, but I had unlimited hours because the more client work I did. Hey, we're talking about when we're living in warm places because we're all from cold places. We're talking about how when you live in a warm place, you personally like shame yourself into exercising and whatever because everybody around you looks good. Because I grew up in northern Minnesota, and it's okay for somebody my age to just be fat. Nobody cares. It's covered with clothes. So I lived in Florida for a long time. Obviously, I met Sean down in Playa, and I was just getting into how I actually worked harder and bought nicer things. Because everybody around me in Miami, everybody had like a BMW or like a Bentley or something. I'm like, I can't have a Nissan Altima, you know. So it's just weird,
Yeah.
like the way the environment impacts. Anyway, sorry. Welcome. Sorry
Thank
for the intro there.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, no, I've been having those conversations with so many people too. Literally just yesterday, I was saying like every time I'm in Playa, I feel so much better. I'm so dialed in, locked in when it comes to business and everything because I'm surrounded by so many amazing people and entrepreneurs. And so exactly as you said, like whoever you surround yourself with, they really have a huge impact.
Absolutely. And then Justin was saying too, is that you almost get shamed into being healthier and better. But they don't get, the people don't shame you. You shame yourself. You're like walking around, you're seeing all these beautiful people and six packs and like success. And you're just like, fuck, what's my excuse? Right? Like, like what am I doing?
Is that shame? I think it's inspiration. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be on a negative lens. For me, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've pushed myself so much being here because I'm on the beach and I see all these gorgeous, like literally every time I take photos with people, I'm like, everyone in Playa is a gorgeous human. Everybody.
Yeah, it's a rarity. It's like we were saying, like back in Canada, like I think just the mentality is different. There's not as much motivation. It's not as much, so like if you're in good shape, you're like the odd one out. There's like, oh wow, okay, steroid man, right? Like what's going on? But down here, it's like it's more normal to be healthy, which is what it should be, right? It definitely should be like that. So,
Totally.
but yeah. Tamar, I like how we have two lions on the podcast. Welcome.
Love
Welcome.
it.
That's right.
Lion
Yeah.
power.
I was telling him that there's a good chance you guys are probably related somewhere far back because if you're both from the same country, and the reason I gave is my mother's maiden name is Bouchard. For anybody who's trying to steal my credit, my mother's maiden name is Bouchard. That family's from Quebec, wherever the French Canadians are from. And we had some huge family reunion with like 10,000 of them. And it turns out people who have the same last name as you, if you go back far enough, even if it's super distant, it's a distinct possibility that you guys have a relative. Yeah.
The problem is, in this case, it's very unlikely just because my grandfather changed his last name. It wasn't originally Lyons. So I'm only I'm a third generation Lyons. But yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I'm like a 20 generation Lyons from England somewhere. So
Okay, yeah.
my grandfather had the coolest first name. His name was Cornelius.
Ooh, well, that is really cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Like a fucking white wig and
yeah, the ivory white wig and the monocle. Well, yeah, thanks again, Tamar, for being on here. We're gonna obviously we edit some things out, so if things kind of go in, like you just put, like, we always do a bit of an intro, just the two of us, like who we're gonna bring on, what we're gonna be talking about, and that kind of stuff. And then of course the guest just pops on, like, oh, there you are. Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're excited to have you in here. We did a little bit of an intro, or I did a bit of an intro about how we met at originally having you on Instagram through Matt adding or sending you your profile, you coming to the intimacy games, me kind of putting two and two together. I'm like, shit, you're just at my house.
Playa is such a small place. Such a small world.
It's so small, but I love that about it. It's like it's big in the sense there's like 300,000 people that live in this area during the high season, but it's like small in that kind of community thing. So I would like you to properly introduce yourself. You can share us a little bit about your journey, how you got into the social media marketing aspect and the agency owner, and like how you were able to build such an impactful business as well.
Yeah, totally. So my name is Tamar. I am from Toronto, Canada. Lived there all my life. Very Canadian. I love Toronto. One of my, very much, that's a huge part of my identity through and through. And I actually started off in radio and television. So I went to Ryerson University. I studied radio and television. I always wanted to be a storyteller. One of the things that I have always loved was being on camera and presenting myself and having conversations with people. But having, very hardworking parents, they were like, you can't be an actor, you can't be on screen, that's not a viable way of making a living. You have to have a backup just in case that doesn't work out for you. And so they put me, we found this broadcasting degree, and I was like, you know what, this sounds perfect because I'll be able to have the experience being on camera, but I'll also have the education on everything that goes into that from the behind the scenes. And so I worked in television for a couple of years. I loved it. What I loved about it was the storytelling. I found I had worked on a couple morning shows, lifestyle television, that kind of thing, nothing really scripted. And what I loved about it was that so much of what was the good content was content that I had helped bring the story out of the people that we were interviewing. And I started to learn that people don't know how to tell their own story. It's a lot easier to tell your own story when you are asked certain questions, or like there's an art to asking questions and there's an art to helping someone tell their story. And I just kind of innately got that. And so during COVID, during the pandemic, when things shut down, the television industry obviously was not a great place to be in. And so on the side, what I was taking on was doing like virtual assisting, social media management, all those things that I had just kind of innately knew how to do. And so I took on one client, did their social media. When the pandemic hit, they needed it ramped up even more so because they weren't able to see their client. So I found ways that we could monetize what they were doing through social, through online, just different online programs, help build the back ends for that. And I was like, hey, I'm actually really good at this. Like I'm really good at creating social media. And I just started seeing on TikTok so many people talking about how it's so easy to make $10,000 a month as a social media manager. Here's how I do it. You can do it too. And I thought, no, there's no way that's possible. And then I just kind of tried to do exactly what they were showing that they were doing on TikTok. And I was like, oh shit, this is really possible. And so I ended up leaving television, working in social media, creating this business. The one client that I had pretty much referred me to about like 10 of their peers. They're pretty well respected in their space. And so I got pretty full within the first month of starting my business. And then, or I'd say like first 2 months, let's say, quit my full-time job in TV and just kind of bet on myself. And then, yeah, that's kind of how it started. I started hiring people because I couldn't do it all myself, knew I needed help, and then kind of accidentally turned into an agency, but it was never really the intention. It was supposed to be a side hustle.
You couldn't have picked a better time to, I mean, even though you may have made the transition eventually out of the broadcast media stuff, because most of those, as we all know, they're not doing very well right now. I'm talking like the big networks, the anchors are losing their pay, and that affects everybody. That affects everybody involved in the production of that. So it's pretty good timing, whether it was planned or not. I don't know, honestly, and again, I want to discourage anybody from doing that kind of work. I just don't know what the future is there. I think the future is in what we're doing now, independent stuff and YouTube and everything else. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I like how you said it wasn't anything you ever planned, and like we've talked about this in a few different episodes before too. Like some of the best businesses and the best ideas are things that you didn't plan. You found a desire and a need to fulfill in your life, and a pain point is something that you need to solve, and then that problem that you're trying to solve other people's problems as well. So it kind of just like is natural, organic method, and that's actually one of the things that you kind of pride yourself on as well, as the organic methods that you have. And like you said, one of your feature milestones was, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if it was on one video or just collectively you've had over 200 million views within your agency. I want to kind of dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, so that was within the first 2 years of starting the agency. So we're in our 4th year now. We have kind of cracked the code on creating organic viral content. And one of the things that I pride myself on within that is that we're very results driven. I think so many people are so used to just pushing out content, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And there is value in that. And I think you have to have volume in order to figure out what works. Because to me, marketing and content is all data. It's what did I do? What can I double down on? Why did this work? Why didn't this work? And what part of this worked? What format? Was it what I was talking about? Was it because of what I looked like in the video? Was it because of the photo? We have to look at all those nitty gritty pieces. And I think a lot of people don't do that when it comes to their content. And so we do that in the agency with all of our clients. We're really hyper focused on things that people don't even know to look at. And because of that, we're able to understand, okay, what about this content goes viral? What about this content is our audience liking? And so we work with a lot of service-based businesses primarily. And because of that, we've been able to kind of identify trends. So on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, we've just been able to really lock in on it and generate those kinds of results. It was for about the 200 million, I would say it was within the first 2 years of my agency. So we probably had about 10 clients, so collectively. But even so, that's pretty huge.
20 million views per client.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
On average, right?
We're beyond that. I need to update that number. But yeah, we are definitely beyond that now at this point. We get for our clients on TikTok over 1 million views per client per month. Like it's pretty easy. Like and I know some people really struggle with that, so I hate to just say, oh yeah, it's pretty easy. Once you have the data and once you have the trends, it's very easy to understand what's going to work. For example, we have a dermatologist on our roster, a few dermatologists, but one of them that we work with that we do TikTok for, we know exactly what we need to post to get views. And so if ever our views are down, I'm like, okay, we'll just post another 3 videos in this style. And then we get another 2 million views that month. So it's kind of fun at this point because you can really identify what will work and why it works. But yeah, that's pretty much, that's a big part of what I do. And I love doing that.
Yeah, no, I'm wondering, why do you think it is that, this is an off-topic question that just came to me. Why do you think it is that people don't look at those metrics? Is it they don't have the skills, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the care, attention? Because I know, like you said about the spaghetti on the wall, it's one of the best. I still do that when I'm actually cook spaghetti. It's the best way to find out if it's ready. Like it's falls off the cover, you're like, not ready. So, but like, why do you think, when that is the way to do it and people know that it's the way to do it, why do you think they don't do it?
I think people don't understand the value of what the metrics mean. What does it mean to get, and even if I get 200 million views on a video, what does that mean? What does that mean to me? How can I take that and extrapolate it and apply it to moving forward? That I think there's a major lack of education. What does it mean when I get 100 shares? What does it mean when I get, the people who are watching my story views on Instagram? That's a big thing we can talk about because nobody knows about this. But like, I'll share. Who's watching?
I get hundreds of story views, and I'm like,
But
yeah, but like, what
do you go through and look at who's watching all your stories? Do you go through and see who's watching all your stories consistently? Do you test when you post 3 sets of stories versus 9 sets of stories? Who's watching all the way through? No.
I guarantee he doesn't do any of
I
these things.
guarantee you don't. What? When you're promoting your business and people are scrolling through everything and never interacting with your content, but watching every single one of your stories, those are warm leads. Those are people that want to work with you. They're not just watching your stories. Like, and I'm talking like, be annoying with your stories. Post like 9, 10 at a time. Usually, I know for me, if I'm watching stories one day just and not caring, I'm not sitting and clicking through 9 sets of stories from one person. If I'm not interested in them, I'm just continuously scrolling. Those are metrics that people don't even know to look at. When you have 100 likes on a video, what does that mean? Like, I think people just don't understand the breakdown and what each metric actually means and how you can extrapolate that metric to apply to your content and to your sales and marketing strategy. And because of that, I think people just don't realize how important it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, like, I definitely don't do that, but I'm also not into marketing. So for me, I primarily use my Instagram just for just sharing just sharing my life. I'm getting a bit better at monetizing it, but again, it's not my expertise. I'm more web development, programming, minting of different currencies for crypto coins we have for projects in Vancouver, stuff like that. So like that aspect, I just use it just to be like, look at what I'm doing. But yeah, like I had no idea about those metrics.
Yeah, I would say most people, and I'll share it now because I think it's very valuable. Most people don't understand the value that they can provide in their Instagram stories. That is where all the sales happen. We work primarily with service-based businesses. So a lot of our clients are personal brands because they are the service, they're coaches or, promoting themselves. A huge piece there is looking at your Instagram stories and seeing who is watching them and who's watching them and not taking action. Because there's a lot of people that will watch all of them and then send you messages and things like that. And my approach is very organic. We're not like, they message you and send them a sales link and get all salesy on them. That's not really my approach to things. To me, those are the people that you need to start having conversations with. So we used to actually keep a tracker. Now we just kind of just do it manually, but we'd have a tracker of who is watching all of the stories. And then we would just make sure to send them messages and say, hey, like, thanks for your support. Thanks for being a part of the community, things like that. And just asking them, like, how's social media going for you? Tell us more about your business, things like that, in a very organic way. That's not, we're not pitching them anything. Generally speaking, that would always lead to them booking a paid consulting call with us because they wanted to work with us. They just didn't really know, like, if it was the right fit and they needed a little bit more of an extra push. For product-based businesses, another thing that you can do with that is also like send like a discount code, something like that. But honestly, you want to be looking at who's watching your stories because that's a gold mine. That's where the sales happen.
It reminds me of how much I appreciate experts because it's not the same as a tax expert or something else. But so many of us get into certain things. Like if I was a client and I came to you and I'm like, well, what do I need to wear in this video? What do I need to say? And if you just described everything you did now, it wouldn't be interesting to me. Like I want nothing to do with that. Just like if my tax guy finds a way to get me a break or whatever, I don't really need to know how it's done. But most people are like, well, just throw some hashtags in there, make sure you do this and, put on this in the background while you're chopping up a cucumber in your kitchen. Clients think they can do it all on their own. They need a little bit of an eye opener. What kind of screening do you have? Is there like an onboarding process where you're like, hey, we have to make sure this is a good fit? Is there like a whole thing you go through to make sure that this person's going to actually listen to you and pay attention to what you're telling them?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I have a rule This might sound funny and it might sound very counterintuitive to a lot of businesses. I'm really good at sensing vibes. And it's not being someone who gets vibes is a very hard, like you can't really, that's not really a metric. It's not really a way of saying, hey, this, and this. I, at this point in this stage in my business, and I know as we scale, this might have to shift, but for now, I love to get on every single sales call. That's pretty much what I do. I love sales, I love marketing. And so I really focus my time on doing that. In the sales calls, we do have a lot of questions that I'm asking. I am pretty good at sensing, okay, from a personality perspective, is this client somebody that I can vibe with? Are they coachable? Do they look like they're open to feedback? Are they somebody who's going to respond to messages? Are they somebody who's going to be, are they going to be a good client? There are a lot of questions that we can ask to kind of figure that out. But a big piece of it is really relying on what is that back and forth like? Do we work well together? Do they seem like somebody that I could work with? Do they have an open mind? Are they a perfectionist? Are they somebody who's very rigid? Are they somebody who's more open to being coached? And for me, that's the most important thing. Like I want a client who wants to be involved, but also knows that they're hiring us because they know they're not the expert. They know they might have the skills to execute it themselves, but they don't have the time, and they want the expert's opinion on what to do. And so we have tons of clients in the creative space, like super, super, super creative, like working with celebrities, super capable of what they do. They're experts in their field. Even videographers and photographers that we have as clients on our roster, and even they come to work with us because they're an expert in their craft, but translating that onto social media isn't necessarily something that they want to do, and they don't necessarily have the time for that. And so the reason that they get the best results is because they know that they can rely on us. They know that they can trust us, and they're constantly coming back to us for feedback, and they're super coachable. So yeah, I'd say somebody who's not open to I don't want to say being told what to do, but someone who's not open to receiving feedback that will help them. If they wouldn't be open to that, they wouldn't really be a good client or a good fit. I'd say the best clients are the ones that want to learn and want to grow and want it taken off their plate and don't want to, create another make work project for themselves.
Do people come to you with like no followers? Does that happen before where people show up and I've got nothing? Because I imagine the ones that have a ton of followers might actually, I don't know, in a way, I think they'd be maybe a little bit harder to deal with because they're kind of set in their ways. I could be wrong about that. Whereas somebody who's brand new could be like, hey, just tell me what I need to do here, right?
So if someone has no followers, but they have an existing business, then we would work with them. We would not really work with a business where we're building the business up from scratch. And the reason I say that is because social media, so much of it is, it's so hard to quantify the ROI. And if it's a brand new business with they're not making money yet, I don't think it makes any sense to be outsourcing your social media unless you have like all the systems set up that you're going to be making whatever it is per month. It doesn't make sense to be outsourcing your social media until you are already making money and you are already making content, and it's so time consuming. It works for you. You understand the value that social brings to your business. You just don't have the time to implement it yourself. Until you get to that point, I would not recommend outsourcing it. Beyond that, I wouldn't recommend outsourcing really anything until you know how to do it yourself. You don't have the time or capacity to do it, and then you can outsource it. So yeah, we don't really, I had one client pretty much in all the 4 years that we've been doing this, come to me needing to start from scratch, but they already had the business. They just hadn't really had a presence on social. They had great PR. They had great, they had media spots secured. So we were able to grow their account fairly quickly, but I wouldn't really take on a client that doesn't have a business established.
Yeah, we've had a similar situation with a couple of clients where it was kind of what you just talked about, where they didn't even have the business or their product or their offer built yet. And then they're trying to find out, because we have some social media experts within our agency as well. So they're trying to ask us like, what's my ROI? What am I going to get? Like how many sales I'm going to have? It's like, well, it's really hard to tell because you currently have 0 sales. So like, we don't even know, like, you can build out a course, you can build out a product. And if the market, basically, the organic market says there's no need for it, then you're going to get 0. So it's really hard to justify. So I get what you mean when it's like, you don't want to work with someone that doesn't even have the business built yet, because it's hard to quantify, give them metrics, ROIs. But if it's something that they have, you can see what kind of numbers they have, how many sales, where it drops off, what their retention rate is. It's a lot easier to quantify and actually give them proper numbers and stuff like that. But
absolutely,
one of the things that you touched on too about being coachable, and that's, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody in this group, but at least for me and Justin, we've had people where, that vibe was there, where it's like, you're going to be a fucking pain in the ass to work with, right? You just have this vibe, right? But there's, you're starting a business, you're just getting the agency kind of up and running. You're like, you know what, maybe we can change them, right? It's kind of like, a fix me up boyfriend, right? Like, yeah,
Burned us every time. It burned us every time. I got about 10 names running through my head right now. My blood pressure's going up.
yeah,
Right,
like maybe they'll change, maybe they'll get better. And it just never does, and they're telling you how to do it, and like, no, like this is the way that I've been doing it. It's like you reached out to us because what you were doing isn't working, so at least try what we're offering. Go through the cycles, but it's the uncoachable. Like this is the way I do it. It's like,
Yeah.
I did an accent there, so hopefully the person I'm talking to doesn't know who it was.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I'm going to put her in the show notes.
Big things I always tell clients in the onboarding set, not even in the onboarding, like on the sales call, I say the reason people come to work with me is because I push people back. If you come to me and give me an idea and I think it's a bad idea, I'm not going to execute on it. I'm not going to do it. And I have clients that are pretty big clients and they love that I do this. They'll come and say, what are your thoughts on this idea? I think it's a great idea. And I'll let them know, you know what? I think this is bad for your brand. I don't think this is good for your image. I don't want you to do this. And quite frankly, I actually don't feel good putting my name and my agency backing that type of content. So we're not going to do that for you. Only if I truly believe that it would be really bad for you. It doesn't happen all the time. I had one client that happened like once in the last 2 months, but in the sense where I said, we're not going to put out this type of content. But the point is, my clients love that. And what they say to me, and it's what's consistent in the feedback that we get, and this isn't just with me, this is with our account managers too. I train them on this and they're very much like this. The feedback that we get is, you guys care so much. We love how much you care about our business, that you won't like, that you give us the pushback. You're not just implementing something for us. And I think when it comes to outsourcing anything in the business, one thing for me, especially as a business owner, it's like, I want to outsource the authority and I want to outsource the responsibility and the mental load, not just the task. So our clients aren't hiring us as virtual assistants to just do their strategy. They're hiring us as experts who are going to come up with the strategy, implement the strategy, and get them the results. So they don't have to be babysitting us and telling us what to do and, do this, do this, do this. We tell them what's best. And I think that's a huge difference with our agency versus other marketing agencies or social media marketing agencies and VA services, where the client has to actually give a system to the team to implement. Whereas for us, none of that exists. And I think to kind of expand on that a little bit more, going back to what you were saying, with working with clients that are more established and having all those things in place already, we have one of my I wouldn't say one of my biggest accomplishments, but something that I really love, because we work with a lot of coaches. We were working with a coach who was making probably about like 10 million a year in revenue. They had a great product. Everything was great. They had great PR. They had great visibility, all those things, but they made zero sales from social media. They had an audience of about 80,000 followers because of this great PR. They were on television. They were in magazines, all these things, podcasts. They just had no way of leveraging their social media. And so what we did is we went in and we created a whole system. We created all their content. We managed their content, did a great job in my opinion. And in the first 3 months of working together, we got them 80 leads from their content. Their offer was $10,000. So 80 sales calls booked. Okay. Imagine what would happen if all of those closed. The problem is that this client didn't have a sales closer and they didn't have capacity to be doing all that themselves because they were busy coaching. And so the point is like, that was somebody who already had a machine. They already had everything working in their favor. All they needed was somebody to shift the way their content was being done, implement it in a strategic way, and that got them the results that they needed. And they could have done better. They totally could have done better with all those other things in place that were beyond our control. But generally with social media, when you have a great brand, you have a great product, you have a great service, it's usually just small shifts that you have to make in order to actually make that work for you and generate incredible results.
Yeah. What a cool thing to have. Like, yeah, you have already a multi-million dollar business, you're getting zero sales, and all of a sudden, like, the biggest problem you have is, I don't have a big enough sales team to close all these leads from the agency that I hired. Like, that's a wicked problem to have. Like, usually it's like, I'm struggling to find sales. I can't find sales. It's like, I don't have the capacity to close these. So it's a really cool feat that you can be able to bring to someone as well. Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome that you can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we try to keep these around the 40, 45 minute marks. There's a few more things I want to touch on as well. And one of the things that you sent me in your little bio as well is thriving and really multiplying your business that you have with the agency while going through a divorce. So if you want to touch on that a little bit, I remember when we were at the games here at my house, we talked about, a little bit on it, but I don't want to regurgitate information I heard a month ago and that kind of stuff. So I'd love to hear your point of view and like how going through those hurdles. And I mean, I've gone through many breakups before. I've never gone through a divorce, but I think a divorce is just like a larger scale breakup. So like, what was
There's
that?
still time.
How's it change?
There's still time, buddy. Don't worry.
Yeah. No.
I hope you don't have to go through that. I hope you never have to go through that. But yeah, no, 100%. I think, first of all, just kind of preface it. I was definitely very lucky. We were together for 9 years. We were married for just under 5. But we did not have any kids or significant assets together because we had gotten married so young. And so I'm very lucky. It was just a very expensive breakup. That's what I tell people. I know there's others and people who go through divorce in similar situations that have it much worse. So I always kind of want to preface that because I cannot obviously only speak to my own experience. And so I was very lucky because I didn't have any ties. I didn't have kids. I didn't have, a home and things that I needed to, things that were holding me back. So yeah, it was hell. It was really difficult. But what I would say is that I had started my business before. I was married when I had started my business. And I think so much of why I got divorced and why I kind of went down that road was because my business allowed me to step into my highest version of myself and really own my power. And I really started noticing what I was good at, who am I, what do I want in life, and what do I want to grow to? And it allowed me to see that that wasn't in alignment with where I was at in my marriage. And so what was hard about it was obviously it's a divorce, it's a life. You're grieving something that you thought that you wanted, and everything that you knew in your whole life is with this person and what you're gonna have together and what you're gonna build. And I just started realizing that like that was not realistic with that person that I was with. And so being an entrepreneur, going through turmoil, whether it's a divorce, whether it's any form of loss, a breakup, losing a family member, or anything terrible like that, it breaks you. And if I didn't have a team, I honestly don't know what I would do. I think, I don't know what I would have done. Like my team stepped it up. They were there. They, were working overtime. They were checking in. They were like, we're going to take on more. We're going to work more hours. We're going to do all this stuff for you. I'm so grateful because if I didn't have my team, honestly, I probably would have had to put the agency on pause. But that being said, it was really important for me to acknowledge and create space for self-compassion for myself and say, yeah, you know what? Like, I don't need to be scaling right now. And I think that was a big piece. It was like, I just need to be keeping the lights on. As long as we can serve our clients and give them good results, that's all that matters, because then we'll retain them and then they'll sign on with us. And to be honest, actually looking at it now, every single client that I had during my divorce, I still have now. We didn't lose any clients. And that's thanks to my team and that's thanks to the systems that we put in and the results that we've generated and things like that. But yeah, I would say really knowing when is time to scale and when is time to just be. And I had to recognize I built my business so that I could live my life and that it could support me in the lifestyle that I want to have. And so, yeah, it was really hard and it was really difficult, but thanks to my team and just having a lot of self-compassion for myself, we were able to grow and our revenue has skyrocketed since. It's been great beyond. It's been just over a year that I've been divorced and I'm just, I'm navigating and seeing what that looks like in terms of my business, but it's been really fun.
Not to get a little bit off topic, but when you're talking about scaling, because it's all tied together, we actually made the wrong choice last winter. And when I say we, me and Sean and everybody else as our little group, we scaled so fast and we made that mistake because what ended up happening is we had a lot more revenue coming in. We were doing pretty well there for a while, but our loyal clients, we found we weren't paying each one of them enough attention and quality dipped a lot. And we talked about it in one of our previous shows where it's one of our fails, so everything you're describing, even though it's really hard because our natural intuitions, we got to grow, we got to keep going. Like whatever money we made this month, we have to surpass it next month. And next quarter's got to be bigger than the previous quarter. And that was a huge mistake. Even though it may not have felt right at the time, that was really a smart move because that's how you get loyalty. I'd rather have 10 really loyal, high-paying clients than 30 scattered about. And it was very messy. Sean remembers it was terrible.
It was a lot of money, but then it hurt afterwards because, you know, like you said, the attention wasn't there, and we weren't, you know, me and Justin were going through a divorce. We are just actually newlyweds, business relationship.
I was just drinking too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think since I haven't had a drink. This is a lot. So I haven't drank in like 7 months now. So I mean, at the time I was drinking a little bit, but yeah, it was definitely like, you know, the fork in the road decision was that came is like either, you know, maintain, hold steady, or scale. We went down the scale road, and like it was just an influx of clients, and we didn't have I guess we wouldn't have the framework really laid out to handle his clients. We had a good core group, but then all of a sudden we had like, you know, core group, let's say 10 clients, and all of a sudden we had like 30, and we're like, we need more. So we're trying to like facilitate all the clients and trying to find more help. But you're also like, you can't just like hire anybody. You have to weed and process and vet and go through the whole, you know, scenario. Like, you know, show me some of your work and let's do little like demo projects. It was tough to do, but
Yeah.
you know, going through that while going through divorce is tough. And I'm assuming the divorce was when you're also lit back in cold Canada and Toronto too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so that was honestly one of the big things for me. Like I, you know, decided to go on this digitally nomadic journey post that. Like we were living in we had to rent we had a lease on our spot, and he ended up moving out. I stayed there, and I was like, as soon as this lease is over, I'm getting out of Canada because I just need a completely fresh and new perspective on life. I can't be number one in the place where, you know, we had lived together as a couple. Like that was just bad energy. And then also I'm like, I need something new. I need something fresh. And I think one of the greatest things that I never really traveled that much, especially when I was in this relationship while we were dating and when we were married too. Like we didn't really go very far. He was in school at the time, becoming a lawyer and all those things. So like we just didn't really have that much resources in order to do that. And Toronto's super expensive, you know, so it's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the lease was up, I was like, I need to get out of here. So I put all my things in storage, and I was like, I just kept hearing from my clients and from my friends about Mexico City. They were saying how amazing it is. People loved it. And I was like, great, I'm going to Mexico City. And I just never went there. I moved there for 2 months, fell in love with it. My business skyrocketed while I was there because my nervous system was so regulated.
Yeah.
I was out of the place that was causing me so much stress. I was out of the relationship. I was like a new person. I met amazing friends. I had such good energy. My skin got better. Like literally, so many things happen when your nervous system is not in fight or flight, which we know.
Oh, yeah.
But I was really in a very chill, good flow state. And then I did a little bit of traveling. I went to Italy. I just kind of was all over. And I'm like, you know what? I really, really, really love Mexico. I kind of want to try more of the beach vibe because Mexico City is not super warm. And in the summer, it was like pretty chilly. So rainy. So I came to Tulum. I did not love Tulum. So I ended up in Playa del Carmen, fell in love with Playa del Carmen. I went to LA for some client work, and I'm like, I'm going back to Playa del Carmen. And so I found a apartment here, and I'm back here until April. So yeah, I basically am just kind of finding places that vibe with me and really support the lifestyle that I want and the business growth that I can have. So yeah, I'm I'm very happy. I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful spot. I mean, I've been to Mexico. Well, I drove a motorhome through most of Mexico for a year, so I've been to most of the major cities and little places and that. And I love Mexico City, and it does get cold up there in the winter for sure. Like it's cold here right now in Playa. Like I mean, this is the most un-Canadian thing I can possibly say. It's 22 degrees out, and I'm chilly. I'm gonna put a sweater on. Like that's like a nice summer day in Canada, but it's 22, and I'm like.
What is 22 in freedom units? So we don't want to confuse.
That would be like 61, 62,
okay, it's about
something
the
like
same
that.
as here then. Okay,
I sent a picture to my parents this morning. I'm like, I was wearing leggings and a sweater. I'm like, this is the first time in like 7 months that I'm wearing pants. Like, what is happening? It is
the nice part about it being colder though is when I go, me and my partner do weekly date nights. So at least I can put on like a nice pair of jeans and a long sleeve shirt on a date night. Because before it's just like I dress to not sweat too much when it's hot out. So now I'm like, ooh, I can actually like look good and wear a little like, you know, sweater vest or something like that and some pants and put on some shoes. Like before I'm just, you know, doing date nights in a cutoff and shorts, like
yeah.
So true. Yeah. So true. I completely agree. But yeah.
So yeah, we'll wrap it up pretty quick here, but what would be like, there's one question I want to know is talk a little bit more about, if you can, about your Unapologetic Confidence podcast that you have, what you guys talk about in there, And then the next question is going to be is what would be a strategy, because this is called the Strat. So what would be a strategy that you could, well, I think you've already given quite a few little strategies with the stories, stuff like that, but maybe like another little snippet of a strategy to success in a business, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally. So Unapologetic Confidence to me is pretty much my brand. It's not just the podcast. It really is a brand that I'm building on the personal side of things. And Unapologetic Confidence to me is knowing your story, always coming from a place of knowing your worth and being of service and not dimming your light so that other people don't feel uncomfortable in your brightness. That's a big thing. I think that as entrepreneurs, and in my experience as a woman, just in general, is we're always told to keep ourselves small. If you're a creative, if you're somebody who has different ideas, you're not mainstream, you're weird, you're odd, you're the one who kind of sticks out. And so I think, people in general, if you're an entrepreneur and you have an idea and it's not mainstream, no, don't hold yourself back. Don't make yourself small. If you have a voice, you need to be able to use that. And so that's pretty much the mentality that I have. It's the mentality I have with my clients. It's my brand. That's what I believe. And that's what we talk about on the podcast. And so the podcast is really about how can you gain confidence, show up from that place consistently and tell your story. Because when you can show up authentically from that place of knowing your worth and knowing your story and how it impacts other people, you're unstoppable. So it's really just about taking up space and how you can take up more space in the business world and personal world as well.
I don't see anything going on here, but it's the thing is like there's always a stigma about taking up space, and I think one of the best quotes I heard: if you're not living life on the edge, you're taking up too much space, right? So it's like just take up that space.
Yeah.
And people do play small. Even myself, there's always these self-limiting beliefs, and there's always these like moments where I'm like, who am I to be able to do this? Like actually tonight, I'm leading my first ever men's circle. I started up a group in Playa here. We got 58 members in the WhatsApp chat right now. I got like 12 guys coming to my house to talk for 2 hours, and there's I'm fighting this battle of like, I'm excited to do this. I'm stepping into a leadership position and inspiring others. And also I'm like, who am I to do this? Like what, like, I'm just like, so I'm like, I'm still playing small in some aspects. It's a natural thing to do.
But
right?
Sean, who are you not to be?
Well, that's it. That's the thing. I'm also thinking that as well. But there's like, everyone goes through that. And it's very important to lean on the side of things like that you're saying, shine the light on, like you are able to do this. You are encouraged to do this. Take up as much space as you want. Shine your light. Don't let other people dim it. But there's, I mean, I won't speak for yourself, but people still have those tendencies to kind of question themselves and doubt themselves.
For sure.
And bringing light to what you're doing is like having a podcast to encourage people to do that. And that's what we like to do as well is needed, because sometimes people just need that little nudge, that one thing that you say that resonates with them. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
I think some people aren't able to see that light within themselves. And that, exactly as you said, to have that one person who can just say to them, no, we need your voice. We need what you have to give. That can be all the difference. Even just yesterday, I have like a group chat with a bunch of my friends here in Playa. We call it like the PDC Self-Made Millionaires. And it's basically just like a bunch of entrepreneurs. And every morning I pop like a small little thought in there that takes me 2 seconds to write. It's just a thought that I have while I'm journaling. Nothing crazy, takes me 2 seconds, put it in there. And then one person from the group just messaged me yesterday and was like, I'm so grateful that I met you. I'm so grateful that you put that in every day. Like I look forward to it. It gives me so much encouragement. The other day I was feeling really down. Like I wasn't good at what I was doing. I wanted to give up, but constantly getting these messages from you really helps me push forward. And I'm like, wow, that's something that I don't put thought into. I just sent it to my friends, but look at how much that's impacting somebody. And that's exactly the overarching message when it comes to any entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, it's because you're in business, because you want to help people and you want to change something in the world. And you need to understand that your voice matters and what you have to give matters. And it affects people in ways you can't even fathom. So continuously show up, because when you don't show up and you make yourself small, you're holding people back from experiencing that transformation.
What I always tell people before we come to an end here is I'm on my 9th career. I was in the military for a while. I worked for the American government. I worked in the private sector in Miami, and I've had very, very different jobs. And compared to what you just said, this is dumb. But I've learned that every job I got into, I'm like, these people are amazing. And I get into the job and I'm looking around, I'm like, everybody's just winging it. Nobody knows what they're doing. And it gives me comfort, because everything I get into, like the thing Sean's got to do later today, for example, is like, you feel like, am I ready for this? Don't worry. Everybody else is thinking the exact same thing, and nobody's ever ready for anything. You just have to act, which is tough, of course, but everybody's just winging it. Everybody's winging it. None of us know what we're doing. We found that even the people we help, we don't have to be light years ahead of them. If you're just like 2 weeks ahead of somebody that is trying to do what you're doing or needs advice in any realm of life, you're 2 weeks ahead. That's perfect because you can relate to them because you were just there. So it works out.
Yeah. I always say you don't
Awesome,
have to be the best at what you do. You have to be the most consistent.
Right.
Yeah. Consistency is key. Actually, I posted on my story that I'm now going to learn I know how to monetize. And so I'm going to look into that. And like one of the things was like being consistent at the gym. So it's been great. But honestly, Tamar, it's been amazing having you on here. Thank you so much for being on and sharing some light and some insights. We're going to ask you to send it to us as well. But if you want, how can people reach out to you if they want information as far as getting in touch with your agency? Is there a handle, a website? Again, we'll post the links inside the chat as well in the description on our podcast. But yeah, anything that you want to say?
Yeah, totally. So if you want to reach out to us for the social media marketing agency or anything like that, that would be at Lyons Digital Marketing. I am most active on Instagram there. So that's where you should reach out. If you want to reach out to me personally for anything podcast related or personal branding, things like that, feel free to reach out to me. My handle is at Tamar Lyons. So yeah.
Awesome. Justin, anything else you want to add?
No, but now I got it because you said it 3 times. Now I have to bring it up. So my real first name is Justin, and this happens on every show. And a few years ago, I thought I'd be cute because I'm writing a book. I'm writing fiction based on some of the stuff I used to do, and I thought I'd be cute. I'm going to go by my middle name, Lee. So, but most of my friends, like Sean here, from the long descendant of Cornelius, he calls me by my real first name. So now it's like, God damn it! Every show we do, I've got to say something. So. Anyway, but yes, it was very nice meeting you. Thanks for coming on. I'm jealous of you two. I'm in Texas right now. It's nice. I'm on the beach, but it's not nearly as nice. I do have to make it back down there. It'd be nice for us all to get together and to be continued, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.